Shalom Aleichem, everyone. Hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful week. This week is Parashat Kedoshim, and one of the mitzvahs, many mitzvahs in the parasha, one of the mitzvahs that we find is the mitzvah of lo takif pa'as rashchem, that one is not allowed to cut one's sideburns, and lo tashkis pa'as harosh, one is not allowed to be mashkis, use a blade on the pa'as harosh, on the various five corners of the face. And interesting halachos. Question is, what's the tam hamitzvah? What are these all about? What's the message that we're trying to express? Rav Hirsch shares one idea, fascinating idea. He says, why is it that we can't use a razor blade on our face? So he says, the face is the source of sensuality of a person. That's where many of his five senses are, not all, but many of the five senses are there. And we want to, in a certain sense, curb that sense of sensuality, curb a little bit that physicality, that gashmius, and by having facial hair. So facial hair kind of conceals, is an act of tznius that hides a little bit of that sensual side of man, puts it into a perspective, into a toned down type of modality. And that, says Rav Hirsch, is why if you use a blade, so then everything gets revealed. Once you have to use a scissor, you can't get too close a shave. He suggests as well, why do we have to have payas? And we can't go ahead and eliminate our payas. So he suggests a similar idea, is that the front part of the face is the sensual part. The back of the head is the more intellectual part, and a mechitza, a separation, to understand that there's a place for sensuality, for physicality, there's a place for intellectuality, that our intellect should be governing. So the payas harosh, the sideburns, the mechitza, that has to come down, is always a constant reminder. Interesting ideas on this mitzvah, which you could understand to be a joke. In fact, the Rambam understands that these halachos were just another example of areas where we want to separate ourselves from Gentile society. And in the Gentile world, they carry their facial hair in a certain way, so we do it differently. Rabbeinu Bechaya has another interesting idea that I wanted to share, and that is that we live in a world today where there's a lot of gender confusion. People identify as this, identify as that. And as part of what another mitzvah we have in this week's parsha is lo silbash gever simas isha. There's man's clothing, there's women's clothing, and we have to have a clear sense of who we are, how Hashem created us. So the mitzvah of lo takifu payas harosh, lo tashkis payas harosh, is to make sure that we don't use a razor blade, because if we use a razor blade, we become very, very clean shaven, so a man can start to look like a female. And that's something the Torah wants us to avoid, that it wants to maintain in the way we appear, in the way we carry ourselves, the clothing that we wear, the way we appear in our facial expressions should maintain a clear and distinct sense of what is male, what is female, says Rabbeinu Bechaya. That is the idea and the reason behind the mitzvah of lo tashkis payas harosh. Interesting food for thought. Wishing everyone a wonderful Shabbos Kodesh.